Let's start. Right, thanks for that. If people don't mind, I'll sit down. If I stand up, I would have to improvise. If I sit down, I can put my glasses on and see what I've got in front of me, and I cannot possibly make a bit more sense. So I think making a bit more sense is probably the way to go. I'm going to be a bit more specific in what I'm talking about because I'm here as a representative of the Institute for Employment Rights. But the title in the session here is called Shifting the Balance, and I really hope I don't have to spend any time at all talking about the fact that the balance of power in the workplace needs shifting. There is currently an unrestricted right to manage, which is framed by this country's anti-trade union laws. That system is undemocratic, it's unproductive and it's undesirable. It's a system that fundamentally believes that trade unions are simply an impediment to a free labour market. Speaking for the Institute, our aims are to create fair, just, secure, democratic and productive conditions of work through which we can start to diminish inequality and benefit the economy. So if the framework of labour law as it currently exists cause current workplace conditions, then surely what we actually need to do is to change the law. And that is something that the Institute of Employment Rights has been trying to do for the past 30 years. We were founded in 1989, which some of you will remember was the height of the Margaret Thatcher anti-trade union laws, and basically a lot of the changes that were made then are still changes that are here today, despite the fact that we did have a Labour government for quite some time during that period. I think what is actually important now, though, is that having developed the manifesto for labour law and campaigned on it, we are now in a position where the policies that we are advocating to change law are overwhelmingly endorsed by the Labour Party and are actually within the party's manifesto at a UK level. That should mean that we can get changes with a Labour government. But what I would like to say is that in Scotland we would make exactly the same case. That might be the case that it is Westminster which has the legislative power to change the anti-trade union laws. And it's certainly the case that the trade unions in Scotland would advocate the devolution of those laws. But Scotland itself as a nation has international obligations under UN treaties, human rights laws and ILO treaties. It is the responsibility of governments to protect workers' rights and the responsibility of employers to respect workers' rights. Those responsibilities actually do fall to the Scottish Government. And while they can't legislate on the matter, there are steps that they can take, both to promote and develop the workers' rights agenda. They are employers, they are administrative authorities, they can use the powers that they actually have in the form of contracts and licences. And I have to say that the key word there would be using their powers. As the blacklisting scandal highlighted, it's one thing talking a good game, it's another thing actually then doing about it. And finally, it could actually use its financial clout. So it is fair to say that there have been developments in Scotland which started with the Working Together review, which some people might remember, chaired by Jim Mather, comprising representatives the unions, industry and academics. It led to the Fair Work Convention and the production of the Fair Work Action Plan. And I think there's now a new Fair Work Action Plan. And I don't think there's any doubt at all that the documents talk the talk. They talk about support for strong trade unions. They talk about the promotion of the living wage. And they talk about developing collective bargaining. But the sentiments have never actually been accompanied by any real change. Too much is made, and this is constant in the documents, of encouraging good employers. But I don't think the case for workers' rights should depend on the whims of employers. And I think what we have to say is it should actually depend on enforceable standards. And in terms of fair work, if you look at the employers who do come on board, They tend to be, if you would like to call them that, the fair employers. There is absolutely no mechanism within what exists at the present time to allow trade unions the ability to organise in those sectors that are non-unionised, which is precisely where workers are at their most vulnerable, where you get people having to work in precarious conditions, 0 hours contracts and all the rest of it, the people who actually need trade unions most. And I think it's also fair to say that it's an approach that has vacillated between talking about trade union involvement and employee involvement. And let's face it, those are two very, very different animals. So in advocating the Charter, we've attempted to codify the rights for secure, just, democratic conditions of work. And it is about how we use the law. And what we have tried to illustrate is the laws that are necessary. It reflects our international obligations. Now, there were copies of the Charter put out there, so you can actually read it for yourself. But in terms of individual workers, we're talking about a single employment status and doing away with the distinction between an employee and a worker that is currently used for discrimination. It's talking about 0 hours and working time and having the right to transparent and predictable working hours. It's talking about an enforceable living wage. It's talking about pay equality that identifies and eliminates the gender and racial pay gaps. It's talking about using and enforcing family and carer responsibilities. It's talking about renewing policy on health and safety and ensuring that it's actually a matter of collective bargaining. And it's talking about protection of wages. But crucially, we don't see it only as being about individual workers. We absolutely see it as being about collective rights and collective bargaining. So we want to see freedom of association, employers respecting the right of the worker to form and join trade unions, no blacklisting and no victimisation. We want access to workplaces. We want trade union facilities. No just protection from discrimination and dismissal, but facilities, check-off, time off, and access to workplaces. We want, crucially, trade union recognition, where trade unions will be able to bargain collectively as independent trade unions. You would not expect us not to say that we shall have the right to strike as an important element of industrial policy. But crucially, we do see fundamental to this being the re-establishment of sectoral collective bargaining, absolutely fundamental, where terms and conditions of employment shall be set by a process of sector-wide collective bargaining to raise wages, improve working conditions. Provisions of the sectoral agreements shall be binding on all employers, including private contractors. All employers shall comply with relevant collective agreements, and employers and trade unions at an enterprise level can improve upon the central agreement. But I would emphasise the crucial element here to enhance workplace democracy and rebalance the balance of power in the workplace is that centrality of collective bargaining. Democracy shouldn't stop at the workplace gate. And I think that's why we need to see the re-establishment of collective bargaining. And I don't think it's possible to exaggerate the need for the programme to revitalise collective agreements, but crucially, there is a centrality in government in actually making that happen. Apart from raising wages for the individual worker and increasing worker protection, it will expand the impact of trade unions, enhance worker voice, job security, and end worker exploitation. But there is a central role for government here. And we would argue that it starts with a cabinet level minister for industrial relations, to develop and coordinate a vision for labour and to speak up for labour where there are tensions with economic, business and industry pressures. And a Cabinet level secretary in Scotland would seek compliance with the Charter of Workers' Rights by establishing a register of employers committed to the Charter and establish a machinery for monitoring and compliance by those employers based on ILO models and ensuring that public procurement and licensing and the consequences of financial decisions recognise that compliance. And for this to succeed, workers need to be organised and unions need to be able to recruit, to negotiate and to strike. And that's the basis of respect and dignity. What I have to say is, these aims are not unrealistic. The Welsh Government recently created a new government directorate, which is the Office of Fair Work, with a cross-cutting remit to work across all areas of government. The aim is to put the interests of working people and collective bargaining at the heart of Wales's future. The purpose of the Office of Fair Work is to advance the legal, cultural and structural changes that are needed for fair work. And I have to ask, if Wales can do it, why can't we? But I think at a very much more fundamental level, unions need to be cut compact at the everyday furniture again. And by that I mean that while unionism has remained fairly high within the public sector, unions tend to play very little part in the private sector, particularly in the newer parts of the economy. Yet, as I've already said, it's where precarious work exists that the most change is needed and protection is most needed, and that unions are very little understood, if at all. Communities in the west of Scotland were based on trade unions when we had an industrial basis. But 3 generations later, it's entirely possible that there's workers who have got no idea what a union is, what a union does, and how it works. So I think a very fundamental job that needs to be done is to change workplaces and demonstrate union relevance based on education and dialogue about democratic trade unionism and its place in society. And that actually does mean that we're going to have to look to educational and cultural change. I think compared to our European neighbours, the UK is the most unequal developed economy within Europe. I think it's either us or Latvia, depending on how you look at it. But the difference is made in Europe by the fact that they have higher levels of democracy in the workplace and industry, and where workers are treated with respect in industry, given a voice, and given a voice in the economy, wages increase, productivity increases, and the likes of your Ubers, your Walmarts and your Amazons are no longer able to exploit their staff. And I think that's something that is surely worth fighting for, and that's what we need to look forward to.